find yourself in a body that is not your own. Do not let their family know you are afraid. Part I, what did he do? I collapsed against the tree behind me, my knees sinking into damp earth. My breaths came in short gasps, choking on the weight of what he did. Tears burned down my face. I turned away from the bloody mess, trying to make sense of it. I need to figure out what happened. I opened my eyes and stared blankly at the carnage for what felt like forever. When my thoughts started drifting back to me, I tried to make sense of the scene. It didn't appear violent. It looked like a dissection more than a murder. It was methodical. He wasn't trying to take a life. He was picking it apart, sifting through the flesh like he was reading a book. Wait a second. That's when I noticed the remains were much smaller than they appeared up close. The pile couldn't have been more than a foot in diameter. I looked in every direction for more of the body, but found nothing. I leaned in a bit closer, the scent of death keeping me at arm's length. An animal, I noticed tufts of fur around the edges of the mass. I could make out small bones and discolored remains of skin. This wasn't a person, I knew that for sure. My stomach still twisted with guilt, but underneath the sadness was relief. It wasn't a person. Thank God it wasn't a person. Even if the body snatcher was a monster, he was still a child, in a child's body. I was gone for what, 30 minutes? I think murdering a person would take longer than that. But what did I know? I wasn't the killer here. The orange beams of light breaking through the trees began to dim. The sun was almost set. I need to get home. My parents can't see me like this. I snuck in through the back door and quietly made my way upstairs. I yelled to my mom that I wasn't feeling well and locked my door behind me. I was in the middle of shoving the bloody clothes in an old shoebox when I heard footsteps approach the door. Knock, knock. Hey, you okay? I tried calling you earlier. Why did you get home so late? My mom said from the other side of the door. I couldn't see her face, but she sounded upset. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to drop off an assignment. I had to walk home after since I missed the bus. Just feeling kinda sick today. Gonna lie down for a bit, I'll be down later. I faked a cough. Oh, okay, well, get some rest. Her voice softened. I'll put your dinner in the microwave. Just make sure you answer the phone next time, all right? Her voice started to trail away. Oh, by the way, the neighbor was over a minute ago. Wanted to know if we'd seen Raphael. I froze. Anyway, told her I'd let you know and we'll keep an eye out. Feel better, okay? The panic came flooding back. My legs turned to jelly and I sat on the floor with my head on my knees. He killed Raphael. Before this, I felt some sympathy for the other guy. I thought we were both going through the same thing. Trapped in a place we don't understand. Misplaced. Scared. Alone. That was never the case. He is a psychopath just like the smiling people in the marble houses. He went after the first living thing he saw and destroyed it. Took his time with it, bathed in it. The image of Raphael's remains made me want to vomit again. Then, I made a new realization. For weeks, I had obsessed over the strange drawing he left behind, trying to make sense of it. But now I understood. I tore down the poster that hid it from view. I rushed to my desk and quickly retrieved the pencil I was holding that night. I traced the pencil over the mess of vertical lines in the broken drywall. It was sharp, very sharp. He wasn't drawing anything on the wall that night. There was no message, and those weren't symbols. He was sharpening it against the wall. He was making a weapon. He turned my room upside down to find something dangerous and snatched the first sharp thing he saw. He was never a victim. He was a predator from the start. And now, my family, my friends, they're nothing but prey. I sat on the edge of my bed and started to think long and hard about the situation. These were the facts. I have to assume the switch will happen again. It will probably last longer next time. The body snatcher will try to kill again. There was no way out of this. If I told my parents, they'd think I'd lost my mind. They'd try to help, but they couldn't, not really. And if they locked me away in some institution, that wouldn't stop him. It would only give him new victims. An orderly or some fellow patient, they'd meet the same end. No. I needed to find a way out of this first. A lot of time had passed since the last switch. If the pattern held, I had at least a couple months before it happened again. I needed to be conservative, so I settled on a few weeks. If I couldn't find my own solution by that deadline, I would come clean to my parents. No matter the outcome, I would have to try and convince them. I couldn't risk their lives. However, I wasn't going to leave anything up to chance. While I was home, I needed a way to contain myself at a moment's notice. I had an idea. You see, when I was younger, I was a sleepwalker. Some nights they would hear me talking in my room at night. Other nights they would find me wandering around the kitchen. One night, they woke to find me stumbling through the front door after unlocking the deadbolt. That is when they realized my condition was putting me in danger. A family friend recommended they get a combination lock to slip over the door handle. It worked great for their kid, and figured it could do the same for me. I was old enough to take the lock on and off as needed, so they decided to give it a try. They never found me wandering the house after that. I dug up the old lock from the garage and tested the original combination. The dusty lock refused to give at first, but after a few tries, it felt good as new. If I kept this on at night, it might be enough to contain the other guy until we switch back. Even if I wasn't sleeping, I could probably manage to slap the lock on as soon as I felt the buzzing. Summer break was right around the corner, so my parents wouldn't be surprised if I didn't leave my room most days. It wasn't a foolproof plan. And looking back, I know I should have told them everything from the start. But when you're 12, you think you can handle things. You think you have time. I didn't, and I deeply regret that. I drudged through those last few weeks going to school by day and researching by night. When nothing showed up in mainstream news, I dove into more unconventional sources. Conspiracy, message boards, and occult communities became my only hope. I posted my situation to as many sites as I could and prayed for answers. I refreshed the message boards every hour, sometimes every minute. Each new reply gave me anticipation of hope, only to leave me disappointed. Half were conspiracy theories not related to the current political climate. One guy sent me a 3-page rant about President Bush's ties to vampiric communists. No one had answers. Most didn't even believe me. Can you really blame them? I began to wonder if I would ever get to the bottom of this. The exhaustion just amplified the paranoia. Every sound that had the faintest resemblance to buzzing sent me into a panic. I probably took the lock on and off my door a dozen times a day. The memory of the last switch started creeping into my mind. I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if I didn't come back when I did. What do the strangers want with me? What will they do when they get their hands on me? The more time that went by, the more I felt sure I would find out. My computer chirped. I was browsing the internet late one night when the sound alerted me to a new notification. I opened a new message that came in from Eldritch Exchange *. The message read, "Hey, cool story. Sounds kinda familiar. You a fan of the Blackwood Files? If so, good taste." My hope was quickly replaced with disappointment again. Sounds like he thought I was writing conspiracy theory fan fiction. I rubbed my tired eyes before returning to the keyboard. I've never heard of Blackwood Files. What's it about? Send. I did a quick search on Blackwood Files and found 0 relevant results. Oh well, worth a shot. The deeper you dig into these forbidden knowledge sites, the more obscure the references get. My computer chirped again. I pulled up the site once more and was surprised to see a response from the same user. Only this time there was no message. Just a hyperlink to a website with a single word beneath it. Morpheus. I looked over the hyperlink and realized it was some sort of FTP site. The kind people used to store and share documents in the early days of the internet. I opened the link and was greeted with a clunky password dialog. I realized that the password was already given to me. I typed out the word Morpheus and hit enter. A terminal-style list of document names were visible on the left-hand side of the window. One of the files caught my eye. Sleep/study/Blackwood/20,010,116. PDF. I felt cold all of a sudden. The name shouldn't have meant anything to me, so why did it? The longer I stared, the more it felt like something trapped in the back of my mind was trying to claw its way out. Before I could open the file, the buzzing was back. I shoved back from my desk so fast my chair toppled over. My hands were already reaching for the lock, but my fingers fumbled, too shaky. My breath quickened as I clamped it over the handle, but it didn't close fully. I tried again and started sliding the number dial as quickly as possible. The lock was it closed? I didn't know. Before I was able to check, the white light swept over my eyes once more. I was switched again. This time, I was in a cold concrete room. The house I knew I was in that damn house again. I just didn't expect it to be like this. The room, a basement maybe, stretched wide and empty. High above, rows of rectangular vents lined the ceiling, spilling cold fluorescent light. Everything was washed in a sterile blue glow, like a medical facility. There were no windows, furniture, or anything for that matter, just a clean, gray box. I assumed the exit was behind me, but I couldn't turn around to see. I was restrained. I looked down and saw that I was sitting on a chair of some sort. My arms and legs were pressed firmly to the seat, held down by thick straps that snaked around my limbs and disappeared somewhere behind me. I could barely move an inch. Then I saw my body. There was something off. I looked thin, too thin. Beneath the straps were small limbs. I didn't get a good look at myself the last time I was here, but the clothing appeared to be the same brightly colored shirt and shorts, only dirty. Has he been locked up down here since the last time they caught me? The thought churned my stomach. Weeks, had it been weeks. It was very clear these people were not human. They didn't care about this kid. They had no issue locking him up all this time. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to pity him. Not after what he did. Not after what he wanted to do. I'm sure he was giddy with anticipation as the buzzing came on just moments ago. God, I hope the lock works. Once the weight of the situation started to fade, I twisted, testing the strap. At first, there was give, just a little. But the more I fought, the more they constricted. Inch by inch, the space I had disappeared, pressing my arms and legs tighter. I began to wonder if the chair itself was fighting against me. Then footsteps. One pair of steps were familiar. The same footsteps that chased me down the sidewalk last time. The other footsteps must have belonged to the other parent. I sat paralyzed in fear. They had me. Whatever they'd been planning all this time, I could do nothing to stop it. I was trapped in their game now, and whatever came next, it was happening. I just had to survive until the buzzing came back. As they both came into view, the change in their appearance was shocking. They looked different. Bags hung low from beneath their eyes. Their hair was ratty and unkempt. They looked thin, almost as thin as me. Their clothes, dirty and ill-fitting, looked as if they hadn't been changed in weeks. Had they been starving? Or were they just waiting? They nervously exchanged glances before fixing their eyes on it. They muttered short phrases in that alien language I didn't understand. The rhythm was monotone, as if they had been doing this routine on repeat for a while now. I don't know what they said, but I know why they said it. My confused expression and lack of a response gave them all they needed to know. Their lips stretched into those familiar sick smiles in unison. Their skin stretched taut against their newly sunken cheeks. It almost looked painful. Their bodies shook in excitement as high-pitched sounds escaped their mouths in short, jumpy bursts. Was it laughter? I couldn't tell. The depravity in their body language sent shivers down my spine. There was nothing composed about it. It wasn't happiness. It felt more like addicts anticipating their next fix. I retreated into the chair as one parent ran somewhere behind me. They returned moments later with a large, rusty box. A loud thud shook the floor as the box landed between them. They slid the lid off quickly, their bony fingers trembling, not with hesitation, but with anticipation. One by one, they pulled out the contents. Metal things, sharp things. They arranged them with careful precision, fingers brushing over each object. They treated each instrument with a reverence that made me nauseous. Within minutes, the box was nearly empty. Whatever ritual they were preparing, it was starting soon. As horrifying as the scene was, something was gnawing at me. It was the same uncomfortable feeling I had looking over the Blackwood files. I don't think this was the first time I've been in this room, with these monsters. The thought left me as quickly as it came. The weight of the situation came crashing down as the two finished up their preparations. I wish I could say the switch ended right there. It didn't. I didn't find my way back to my body until much later. And by then, it was too late.